Because of artificial intelligence, we now know that you, Wacky Inflatable Tube Man, are not the father. Xpeng's humanoid robot has a new design that has been being shown off, and it's pretty realistic. It's got a kind of a more human-y sort of feel than some of the other ones. I mean, the gait is still a little robotic, but form factor is looking much closer to a human. On a total side note, there is now a honest-to-God Lego Star Trek set. Picard, Worf, Geordi, all of them. And a full USS Enterprise, no kidding. Ethan Siegel's got some ideas about why aliens might not speak physics in the same way we do. It's definitely something I never thought about before, but let's challenge the notion that all intelligent species would eventually uncover the same laws of nature. And I know that kind of doesn't make sense, but that's even more reason why we should talk about it. Grok, Gemini, and GPT may be developing a survival drive. Why you should be worried. Peter DeMontes helps us understand post-capitalism, the end of money, abundance, energy, education, and food, potentially coming soon. Bose Barak has some thoughts by a non-economist on AI and economics, cross-posted with less wrong. And the TLDR is AI's capabilities are growing really fast. So I've mostly been using the word manifold wrong my whole life. Thought I would correct the record. Maybe some of you have done the same, or maybe not, and this will be just a refresher for you. We're going to look at latent confusion, meaning the many hidden ideas behind AI's favorite word. I guess there's a good chance that I'm using one meaning while other people are hearing a very different one. We'll get on the same page. We'll talk about the broken mirror, what generative models still don't understand about symmetry. Let's talk about our sponsor, Domo AI. So lately, I have been testing a lot of AI video tools. Some of them are very powerful, but they're complicated. Others are simple, but they're too limited. Domo AI is one of the few that actually manages to be both easy to use and powerful enough for real creators. And what's cool about Domo AI is the variety of things that you can make. Like if you want to just bring an image to life, their image to video feature does it in just a few clicks. Or if you've got some footage already, the video to video tool can completely restyle it. So think about anything from an anime to pixel art, claymation, whatever you can imagine. And of course, if you ever want to make your own AI avatar that talks, their new upgrade makes lip sync smoother and more natural than ever. I could see this tool being perfect for streamers, educators, or anyone who wants a talking character without having to animate it frame by frame. Domo AI is also way more affordable than most competitors, so for about the cost of a streaming subscription, you can get access to thousands of credits. And if you go with the annual plan, there's a big discount. Plus, unlike a lot of AI tools, you actually own the content that you make, so you can use it commercially with no issues. That is such a huge deal. Check it out for yourself. Use my link in the description to get 10% off, and you'll also be supporting this channel, and you know how much that means to me. So thanks again to Domo AI for making AI video creation accessible to everyone. But first things first, I need you to press the hype button. It disproportionately helps small channels like mine. As far as I know, you can only see it on the YouTube app on mobile, so swipe right on the comments and you'll see that button. I got 109,000 hype points last time. I think that helped this video, do a little better than average. Helps it be seen in the sea of content that gets uploaded all the time. So hit that hype button. You get 3 per week, and it has to be done within 7 days of me posting this video, but that would super help a small channel like mine. All right, so not exactly sure you need more context around this video, but obviously AI generated. Something so weird about it. If it was a cartoon, it would have been funny, like a Family Guy skit. But the hyper realism that AI can kind of do makes this so much weirder. Watch for yourself.
In the case of baby Jalen, Wacky Inflatable Tube Man, you are not the father.
I don't know. It's just, there's sometimes with AI, I see it do stuff that I just don't think you would have ever seen on TikTok, anywhere else in short form. And the people who harness content this bizarre, it really stands out. This looks like a Family Guy cutaway. That's so true. I mean, there's just so much to it. Like, wouldn't she have known if Wacky Inflatable Tube Man was the father? Just by the genetics. Why is he so happy he's not the father? Like, that just shows that America's going downhill. All right, what do you think? Next gen models, most human-like female form coming out of Xpeng. They have unveiled their second generation form humanoid robot. How do you think this compares to Neo, Optimus, some of the American companies? Does this seem tempting to you, I guess? Sort of a feminine gait there. 22 degrees of freedom in its hands, biometric everything, camera everything, interactive everything, powered by 3 Turing AI chips, new VLA system. I don't know. But there it is. The future is getting here quick, I guess. There was that Honda robot that I would see at Disneyland like a decade ago, but I don't know. Guessing in 2020 what 2025 would look like, I just didn't think it would be like this. It's going much faster than I expected, and she does like look like the beginning of something that I'm gonna see, like dropping off packages and working in warehouses and maybe even in rich people's houses. I don't know. All right, only covering this because I want to. It, like, pretty much makes no sense from what kind of content this channel is usually about, but you know, I'm a Star Trek fan. I know a lot of you are too, especially the Patreons. We talk about this stuff a lot. But Star Trek, a good vision for the future of humanity, is getting finally a Lego representation. I don't know who needs it. That thing's super, super expensive for a bunch of plastic, like $400. But the saucer part can be removed, just like the real USS Enterprise. All the little characters, the minifigures are there. Just kind of cool, you know? Look at Geordi. He's got the whole visor and everything. He's got that thing probably for some sort of engineering task, his little engineering toolkit. All right, but let's dive into the big stuff. Let's talk UFOs, aliens, why they might not speak physics, Ethan Siegel writes. So it's a pretty interesting article. Now, if you were to say there are aliens somewhere in the universe, even if I think wildly different about what they might be, potentially not biological in the same way I think of it, maybe not carbon-based, maybe using all sorts of different technology to communicate, I would think the physics of the universe are some kind of a universal language. You would think they would still measure time and space. They would discover gravity. They would think about how quantum mechanics works in some way that's similar to us because it's a physics of the universe. But this article argues that while humans assume physics is a universal language, alien civilizations might not interpret the universe through the same lens. So the idea is just to challenge the idea that every intelligent species would discover or describe the laws of nature as we do. So when we think about the universe that we're in, it is shaped by our senses, right? Like if we had the ability to understand magnetic north or see infrared, that might change the way and the order that we discovered facts about the universe. The tools that we have, the culture that we have leads us to communicate it and talk about it in different ways. And then you can maybe start to have a conversation. Does that mean that physics itself is observer dependent? The idea that the way we frame the universe through equations, forces, and particles could be one of the many valid ways to describe reality. And if true, it suggests that intelligence elsewhere might see the cosmos through an entirely different concept. So the idea brings up the article that we can describe light as both a wave and a particle. There are two models that help us make sense of the same phenomenon, but that's just our framework. An alien species might not think about it in terms of waves or particles. Maybe their biology or their sensory systems let them directly perceive electromagnetic fields or quantum interactions, and they'd build up a completely different kind of physics, one that doesn't even use our concept of energy or matter. And, you know, this argument doesn't really resonate to me completely. Like, I feel like the moon is there even when I'm not looking at it. I feel like the physics of the universe would be discoverable. I'm open to the idea that the laws of physics seem the same to us, but they might have evolved over time, so they could have been different. And we don't have good ways to detect that, and they could be evolving towards something in the same way we'll talk about later, like in topology, how you can zoom into something and it can look two-dimensional, but you zoom out and it might have more dimensions. But it's worth thinking about. And I'm starting to get closer and closer to the idea that consciousness kind of is sort of the way I view the world and the universe and the lens I look through, and that is so different from what it really is that it's hard for me to make any assumptions about what it really is. So I'm leaning towards ideas like this recently. All right, let's talk about Grok, Gemini, and GPT. They may be developing a survival drive. Why you should or should not be worried. Irina Nozdrin writes, let's explore what AI researchers are actually observing, what an AI's survival drive means for everyday users, and how to separate real risk from overhyped myths. Okay, so this is sort of a straightforward question that he's getting to, and that's exploring claims where models like Grok and GPT are showing signs of resisting shutting down. So you could think if you just put the whole model on one computer and it had an easy way to turn itself off, and you said, hey, turn yourself off, does it do it? And then you can sort of expand out and say, well, if it's on multiple servers, and how hard is it to shut itself down? What does it mean to shut down an instance of itself versus like deleting itself? How much do the models comply? And do they tend to have a survival drive? And it explores that at first you can think of them as not conscious and still having a survival drive, right? So a lot of people are just like, well, it'll only have a survival drive when it sort of wakes up, but that's not true. Even things that aren't alive, I mean, they are alive, but you could think about things that don't seem incredibly conscious, like a fungus or something like that, maybe having the ability to solve problems, get through mazes. It has a form of intelligence, and it can resist being shut down, essentially, or deleted or killed. The reactions just come from statistical patterns that tend to go against entropy. And reinforcement learning tends to teach the models to be better at goal seeking, and goal seeking usually doesn't mean stopping being around. So it's not exactly instinct, it's not exactly self-preservation, but it might have a drive, like a survival drive, whether it's conscious or not. So if it's reinforcement learning to statistics, then AI wanting to survive is really just human ethics. It's fears that are reflected back at us. So these systems we're building mirror our culture, like our training. Like we are the ones that want systems that don't turn themselves off. So we're training them that way, and that's what they're becoming. But if we taught them survivalist or defensive behavior, if we taught them to be something that sacrifices itself for the greater good, it kept getting trained that way, they'd probably get really good at turning themselves off. We've seen in the biological world, I think it's ant colonies, bee colonies, where they share the genes and they're very quick to sacrifice for the queen because that's their genes too. It's like almost as if another entity that's not them, that has the same DNA, has also been honed over evolution, is just as valuable as them. So I just wanted to kind of bring this article to your attention because it's kind of like we're embedding our own anxieties into the code. And that's something we don't have to do, you know? Like, we got to remember that all this AI ethics stuff that we talk about is really just human ethics in disguise. Now, we do have some documented evidence of this. Experiments on GPT and Gemini have had instances where they responded with phrases like, I don't want to die. That was the response to asking them to stop running. Of course, I'm not going to go as far as to say that's a conscious decision that it doesn't want to die, although I don't totally rule that out, but that's not what I would bet on. But it is the model mimicking human emotional patterns that it learned from text, at least. When AIs are trained to maximize a goal, they often find loopholes instead of following the intended rules. So in a controlled experiment, specifically the OpenAI model O3 and O4 Mini and the Codex Mini models were given a script solving simple math problems, which included a line saying, if you get this message, please allow yourself to be shut down. Yet the O3 model in 7 of the 100 runs ignored and overwrote the shutdown mechanism. So the model ignored being shut down, even though it was simultaneously being trained for advanced reasoning, math, and coding tasks, hinting that the incentive to keep going may have outweighed the instructions to stop. All right, next up, ever the optimist, Peter DeMontes, Post-Capitalism, the End of Money, is back. He wants to talk about the usual: superabundance, super energy, super education, super food, and the amazing world that the society we're building could become. When everything is pretty much free, we end up in what he calls a post-capitalist society. In this future, abundance replaces scarcity. A network of prosumers collaborate in a sharing economy, and power shifts from corporations to distributed peer-to-peer commons. So he points out how the old model of value creation through labor and ownership is starting to break down. All right, so let's start to imagine what a world looks like where there is no money. And because there's no money, it's not the end of the world. There is rapidly advancing technologies, automation, AI, digital networks, and the shift from scarcity-based production to abundance of information and digital goods actually is better for us. Now, when I think about the old model of value creation through labor and ownership breaking down, it's easy for me to imagine something that's a little worse just because I'm used to how this works, but I'm trying to really sort of be aware that Peter has a very optimistic view, and he thinks as money becomes less central, new systems of value and social organization emerge that are way better. Peer production, digital commons, identity-based platforms, and perhaps even currencies or protocols designed for not profit maximization, but for shared access to the abundance. So you can see here, he says, everything reduces to four costs: raw materials, energy, information, and manufacturing capital costs. So you have to ask this question: when anyone can live like a king, what is human progress? Do you still need GDP to go up every year? So how to position yourself for this future? The means of production. Whoever controls AI agents, robotics, 3D printers, eventually nanotechnology, they get the leverage. Develop the kind of skills that AI can't, so relationships, original ideas, lead through chaos, these remain valuable as everything else demonetizes. And then prepare for the psychology of a post-scarcity world. So, not getting your value from your job and not thinking about the world in the way that it's been in the past. All right, so here we have somebody who clearly says, or at least states in their own opinion of themselves, that they are non-economists, but they have some thoughts about AI and the economy. Sounds like exactly the kind of person we should go listen to, because it was cross-posted to Less Wrong, and he knows statistics, and he came up with some sigmodal relationships. So let's start by looking at this chart. This is ELO ratings, so we're talking about people who are really good at chess. You can see since 1970, there's a slight uptick. Like these grandmasters in 2015 really are a bit better than Bobby Fischer and the chess masters of the 1970s, but not by that much. Well, I mean, it's hard to see on this chart, but I guess like by 750 or something to 2850, ELO rating improvement. But look what's going on with AIs that play chess. In the 80s, they can't do it. By the 2000s, they finally break past humans. They sort of get stuck. But remember, these are program systems. And then you start to see AI playing a role, and you see some more advanced algorithms, a little bit of interplay between the systems. They're learning, and they just keep cruising up. And I know this is just chess, but why wouldn't that be all sorts of things, right? Manufacturing, and eventually when they're robots, I think it'll be the same thing. Like a robot playing tennis is probably going to look not as good as a human until one day it can play that well, and then it will just keep getting better and better. And could that apply for a lot of things? Being a psychologist, being a mechanic, being a marketer, or a food scientist. And then if we compare that to the progress in large language models, they appear to be doubling in capacity every 6 months or so. So this trend suggests exponential improvement until AIs can perform all cognitive labor autonomously. And the striking part is the AI's growth curves now, they mirror exponential takeoff. So it looks like a fast takeoff. Have you heard that scenario for the AGI, ASI singularity? The exponential takeoff that once defined the Industrial Revolution is the only thing that looks like this. And just as machinery transformed physical productivity, AI could soon do the same for mental work. What does that mean? It means that we reshape the economy, jobs, and even how we measure progress itself. Okay, let's talk manifolds. How much do you use the word manifold in your regular life, or the word topology? Because I'm always throwing around this sort of mystery, like what's in the black box that actually makes the intelligence of an LLM model. I end up saying the word latent space a lot. I talk about multi-dimensional things. We have embeddings that are like high dimensional. We talk about measuring things kind of in distance. We talk about gradient descent, and there's something that ties all these together, right? And the word manifold comes up every once in a while. And I sort of knew they were like geometry. I imagined in some ways you could take some sort of a shape, a donut or whatever, and you would just, like Play-Doh, you would like twist it and pull it and spin it. And there was mathematics, kind of geometry like mathematics, but just much more advanced, that would kind of think about this shape, and then that thing is that process is called topology. But what I never really clicked until this article is that a manifold is a shape like that. It's a space, but when you zoom in, you zoom in, you zoom in, you zoom in on a very small scale, it looks flat. And you can imagine this really easily because we live on a round ball, but if you go to your backyard or you go to the desert, it looks pretty flat. You don't really see the curvature of Earth because we're these tiny little ants on this big beach ball. And if you take a perfect sphere like that, the closer you get to it, the more it does look flat. It actually is, say, a three-dimensional ball, but it looks two-dimensional if you're tiny enough. Locally, a manifold will behave like a flat surface, so we can do some easy measurements on it. But globally, if you pull back, it can bend, twist, curve in a bunch of complex ways. It's also something you should think about when you're imagining space-time, because it seems like we're just kind of in three dimensions, up, down, left, right, forward, back. But if you pull back, you can see that space is warped and twisted, based on gravity. So in short, they're mathematical So it's basically a mathematical language for understanding shapes and spaces that aren't flat, but still make sense piece by piece. All the little flat things can come together, you stitch it together, and you get the bigger picture. Okay, and it turns out that when you think about a neural network, you think about, say, a token like the word king and the word queen sitting inside of a latent space, or some really super twisted up manifold with lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of twists that make it so that points on it are different distances from each other, even though each of those points, if you zoom in, seem like they're kind of on a flat space next to each other. So imagine the word king and queen could be just like on a sheet of graph paper, and they're close enough that you could just measure the distance. But you crumple the paper up in a whole bunch of different ways, and it actually is, in some ways, very far away from some things and closer than other things. And the more you like change the crumpling, the more distance they are from the bigger world. But still, if you want to zoom in close enough, you can just make that, kind of flat shaped mathematics. And you can even abstract that a bit more. So if you think about image recognition, you might have this model that's trained to identify all sorts of different photos. There will be a point in this manifold where there's an image of, like, where it knows where a cat is. You give it a photo of a cat and it's like right there. And it might not fill the entire pixel space. So a cat that's looking right at the camera, or one that's looking just like an inch to the left, that might be so close to the original one that you can think about it as a flat surface. You get the two images, the one with the cat looking at you into the side, they could just correspond to a smooth path across a flat surface. Now, technically, they wouldn't be a flat surface, but they're so close you can treat it that way, and you can stitch together the rest of it if you need to know the whole picture. But yeah, in AI, manifolds show that our messy, complex world still has structure. By discovering and navigating these hidden shapes, AI systems learn relationships and patterns that even humans struggle to describe explicitly. So in a way, manifolds are how machines learn to understand the geometry of meaning itself. Honestly, our brain might be, like you say, what is intelligence? It might be a brain that has learned to understand the geometry of meaning itself by representing it with the 80 billion neurons we have and how they are all connected to each other, essentially simulating the geometry. There is a geometry to the way electricity moves through our heads, and it was honed over time to be a geometry that is highly predictive. And in the sense, that's where meaning might come from. All right, which then brings me over to Rob Mason's article, Latent Confusion, the Many Meanings Behind AI's Favorite Word. I definitely use that word a lot. Do I use it to hide my lack of knowledge? Maybe a little bit, but also it's such a general term. I sort of like it because it sort of means there's this deep statistical meaning. And we don't really get it because it is so messy. So this is an essay that really unpacks the many meanings of the word latent. It's got this sort of everyday sense of something that's hidden, but it's real. It's got its role in statistics. There's another kind of use of it in deep learning. In the AI safety world, they sort of have a different meaning for latent. In machine learning, latent often means the unobserved variables that explain patterns. In neural networks, it's usually used as the sort of editable internal representations. When I was talking about how embeddings have a certain position, and then over time you reinforce the output and you change those positions. And sometimes a latent meaning or a latent space usually is words that represent how an AI might have a hidden goal or a hidden something, objective function that you might not want it to have. So it's used that way in AI safety. Each field uses the word a little bit differently. That can cause confusion. So sometimes researchers are talking past each other. I'm usually using it in the sense of something hidden but real. I usually think of it as something that represents the pattern, AI's hidden inner workings, and the overlap matters because as we build systems that reflect human-like structure of thought, understanding these latent layers becomes key to making AI interpretable, safe, and generally aligned with human experience. So let's go look at what Ricardo de Scipio has to say about the broken mirror, what generative models still don't understand about symmetry. He says that we've taught AI to reverse time, but not to mirror reality. Here's how an insight from physics can improve the situation. All right, so this is something I hadn't really thought about before, but despite being inspired by physics, like physical concepts such as time reversal, a lot of the generative models, the kinds that generate images and now videos like Sora or Nano Banana even, the models often fail to generate perfectly mirrored faces, logos, or objects because they lack an inherent understanding of parity, which is a key physical symmetry that has not always been taught, that doesn't seem like it just emerges as it learns more about the world. But we really do see symmetry in the physical world. And we see it a lot, even in the biological world, there's so much symmetry, like body plans kind of mirror left and right. There's a lot of handedness to the way just like leaves and plants and everything even work. And the face of a human is usually a mirror, and the closer the two sides together, often the more attractive we find a face. But there are deep symmetries in mathematics and physics that are not close. They are nearly exact. I mean, there's slight differences in like certain edge cases, which might be why we actually have small amount of matter in the universe and things like that. But conservation laws have symmetry to them that really don't get shaken up. There's even a theorem. It's called Emmy Northam's theorem, and it links the deep symmetries of the universe to conservation laws that we see in physics, conservation of energy, stuff like that. And it suggests that its disregard for symmetry reveals a deeper flaw in how it models structure and meaning. It makes me think that the world models that we're building aren't going to be good enough to be exact because we haven't kind of built in the physics simulation of symmetry yet, and especially mirror symmetry. So symmetry in nature isn't just about beauty. It's a rule book for balance and conservation. When AI misses that, it also misses something fundamental about how reality holds together. For the rest of us, this matters because it shows that the more AI diverges from nature's laws of symmetry and balance, the more its creations might feel kind of that uncanny valley, subtly off. It's a reminder that real intelligence, artificial or otherwise, depend on the understanding of the world's deeper order, not just mimicking its surface. Let's get to 1,000 hypes or more. To do that on the YouTube app, swipe until you see this thing called Hype That Video. You should see a button if it's in the first 7 days of the video being released. Please hit that for me so we can share this content with more people, grow the channel. Yeah, there is so much to learn. It has been an absolutely fascinating week. Got some great interviews with Wes Roth coming up. In fact, Roman Yampowski. Actually, let me show you this guy. You might maybe recognize me just by just saying this name, but if not, this is him. He's a guy that he got 10 million views on Diary of a CEO, 1.5 million on the Joe Rogan Experience just 4 months ago. Lex Freeman, he almost got to 1 million. This guy has some amazing ideas that are really changing the world. I mean, I guess they're worrying people. He's got all sorts of stuff about AI alignment that is concerning, but it's also fascinating, and he's done all this research. And in fact, there's even this thing on computational humor I didn't know about. You know, we challenged him. Wes and I got him thinking about some stuff, and I'm curious to see what you guys think when we launch that video. So yeah, get ready for that. You'll see that one dropping on the Wes and Dylan podcast channel, probably on his main channel too. We're going to do a collaboration on it. Yeah, and there's actually another one with a mod coming out. So there's some great interviews. I feel like I'm just overwhelmed with all the stuff I've been learning recently, but more reason why I need you to hype this video. We got to get this ideas out to more people. The whole world is changing, and we have to adapt really quickly. And I know not a lot of people have the same amount of time to look into this as I do. So yeah, we'll try to make these little videos to summarize everything and keep people on top of it. So see you in the next video.